man. This is Mark B's Perspective, where we talk about all things, man. And one thing we do on this podcast is we try to keep it real, man. And we also gonna make sure we giving dignity to those we talking to. This ain't where we come and talk down and try to get clicks for this and for that. That ain't what this is. This here, man, we just gonna bring some real stories, man, that can help some young brothers and some young sisters. But right now, I got my man Kimwanna, the man, the myth, the legend.
The legend.
Talk to me, man. Tell us, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Man.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Kimwanna. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the 302. I split time between the 302 in California, the 215, right? So worldwide, man. This certification, man, comes with all the bumps and bruises that come along with it. But in the beginning, I'm going to talk about growing up in a small town called Wilmington, Delaware, right? You know, where I grew up as an 80s baby, man, when drugs were prolific, you know, but the precursor to those drugs was my family dynamic, right? Let's bring that into play before we even talk about the tools of utilization, right? That's what I consider them. The tools of utility, right? They're quick in that hand. But I grew up, man.
So go straight to the, if you would, go straight to the family dynamics. What was it like? How did you feel? Where was you at far as brothers and sisters or whatever?
Absolutely.
Talk about that.
So I'm the first grandchild. I'm the first of the bunch. Now, my grandmother had 11 children, 7 boys and 4 girls. My mom was the second girl. She got 2 brothers that were over top of her, Christy and Spencer. No, Christy and Randy. They raised me. Randy did. I don't know who my father is. My mom was 15 when she had me. But I grew up in a household of early exposures, drugs, alcohol, prostitution, crime. I did. And I was the first lieutenant. You know, even for my grandma. My grandma,
so she was part I got to jump in because I gotta maneuver this. I gotta drive this caddy. So in the dynamics, right? We ain't gonna just jump into that. And I know we got to talk about that, you know, the streets and how did you get messed up. But we going, you're a little itsy bitsy, and I want you to tell me who did what was going on. And I know you said your uncle kind of raised you. Tell us about that.
So they, you know, they had a heavy influence of, you know, the things that, you know, were of interest. You know, I come to learn just, you know, I'm a Peter back and forth. I come to understand that the science of people, man, that the children will take on the interests of their parents, right? Okay. They will. Whether you believe it or not, I've learned, and this science is almost conclusive to me, that a lot of times we talking children out of a family business. But anyway, my family business early on was, like I said, my uncles would, you know, make sure I had nice sneakers, make sure I had shorts and stuff, right? You start to look to them for where my cues were going to be coming from. You know, all the time, man, they selling drugs. They sitting in the parking lot to the bank, man, sticking people up before they had cameras like they do now, right? So it's the 70s. And then here I am sitting in the car window with my arm out the window, you know, looking at myself in the side mirror, like, you know, because we riding through the city, he making his drops. You know, I'm unaware of a lot of things until he starts.
At what age did you understand what was going on? I know you were saying it early on, but at what age did you understand what specifically was going on?
I think, you know, a lot of, you know, what I've learned over time is not to begrudge the lessons that are being offered to you, right? You don't know what they're equipping you for. Like, because there's so many things that we'll get into that I've been through, I've learned not to begrudge the lesson so much, no matter how painful. But, you know, my uncles, man, they would bring, drugs in the house and they would give them to me to hold on to. You know, I smoked coke with them before I was 10 years old. So, you know, you can understand how expedited the indoctrination could be when it comes to the family business between, you know, and I say the good years between 7 and up to 5th grade. You know, I had to get away from them by 5th grade, man. Okay. You know, but I mean, like my grandma, she worked at the Reindeer Rest down on Church Street. You know, anybody familiar with Delaware would know. So she worked as a barmaid, you know, and I guess, you know, over time, man, you accumulate an alcohol habit. You know, my sisters and them were very unaware of it, but you know,
I gotta jump in because I'm at the point now I forget. So at 10, you know, you dibbling, dabbling, they let you get high, whatever, a little bit. What did you learn? Like, I know you couldn't go to school smelling like it, so evidently you learned some skills to try to cover it up. Did you know to cover it up, or you didn't care, or did you try to cover any smells
No,
about washing your hands or whatever?
there was nothing I had to do, right? I was already in a cauldron of people who prescribe to these things. So, what's one more person having prescribed to this stuff? My grandma would be unaware of that. She used to always say when I come around her, you different from them. You not like them.
Right.
But unless somebody's driving my interest elsewhere, man, I'm just like them. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we talking about. So, and then my sister, right? My sister stayed with us. My mom, she had my sister 3 years later, and she came, but she had to go stay with my cousin across town because my grandfather, he drank, and he got to be touchy when he drank.
Yeah.
And so as a child, right, just parallel into some like the mind frame, when the girls left the household, it was this big kerfuffle because the girls left the household. I'm young, so I don't know why, but it took like a self-esteem hit for me because I'm like, because we was like the conditions weren't great. So when they come back and they have bows in their hair and their clothes was clean and stuff like that, man, like I used to be like, my self-worth was like, how come ain't nobody come get me? Why I gotta stay over here? Like they talking about they been places, they got ribbons in their hair and stuff. While meanwhile, there were times when I had to go back there in that back room and pick pixie clothes up out that back room and put them in a wagon, take them down to the laundromat. I don't know. I used to steal change, right? They taught me how to steal everything else. I used to steal change to go down to the laundromat. I get down there with a whole thing full of points, and the women would say, "Oh, baby, oh, come here, baby." Wait a minute. Yeah,
Right.
because my grandma would have me come behind her at the bar, right? A kid, man, small kid with a wagon, man, through the east side, coming down off 13th Street, coming around by Stubbs Park, over there, over the bridge to go behind there to get that crate of liquor she just secreted back to behind the bar, man, because she can't find the rent money. She's been drinking. She lost the rent money. Usually I'm the lieutenant on the rent money, as I know, because my uncles would come around hedging when they realize she can't find that money, and you know what they looking to do with it. Peppy. That's my nickname to them. Wilson, before I was Kimwanna, they called me Peppy. Peppy La Pew.
Right.
They called me Peppy La Pew because I hugged on other babies with a shitty diaper. Like the skunk in the cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm with you.
They still call me Peppy to this day.
Right.
But anyway, and so Mark, just to fill in some more of that stuff, there were times like when my grandma drank so much that, like she couldn't find the money. Here they come. You know what I'm saying? We just want to get the money for a date. Like they trying to convince me because loyalty is strong. These is cultures I'm living. Their drug and alcohol and crime culture. My grandmom's attempts to try to hold this family together, still dealing with, I guess, a budding alcohol problem because as later on I realized when I had to attend her towards the end that there were strong alcohol influences, especially when it was time to stop when the cancer kicked in. So, right, and how difficult that was to transition, all that.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
At this point, where was mom at?
Mom's in Boston stripping. She had to strip and do other things, that premeditate. Hopefully the ideal of facilitating having your children back. I fought in 5th grade every day until I told my grandmom that I'm done. I always been this kind of kid. I'm done. This is over with for me. Y'all gotta get my mom down there. I went to Stubbs. They walked me home from Stubbs, little angry little boy every day, with my arm up, walking because we live right there on 9th and Kirkwood. So they walked me right across the street. After I beat somebody up, they take and walk in the middle of the day, walk me right across the street to my grandma. Kimwanna, what's wrong with you? Like, man, you gotta get my mom down there. I'm done with this.
Right.
This is it.
So real quick, when your daughter, not your daughter, when your sister left, did they go with moms or who? What family members did?
They went across town with Middlebrook and his family.
Okay.
Well, he's part of my family. He went over there with my aunt. My grandma's sister is his grandmother. So she went to my grandma's sister's house. Stayed there. She grew up with this. She grew up almost more sister to Nick than she did to me. But when I fought in 5th grade, my mom came and got both of us. Okay. My sister was in like 2nd grade. Yeah, I had enough. I had been out a little bit because it was a little boy said something to me. This the little boy said, my uncles used to get to work to me. I'm young, but they would give it to me like when they would run out of something. So I, Peppy, where that piece I gave you at? Where that at? Peppy, get that piece. Where that piece at? I said, and I could parrot their voice, right? The things that you have to unlearn, by spirit. We'll get into things you unlearn by spirit. But right? And so they would say, go get the piece. Or they would say, Pepe, I want you to go downstairs and look under the love seat and grab that mirror. Now be careful, it's going to be a razor on it.
Yeah.
So look what I'm going to get. And
Right.
then back then, right, show you how young I was back then, right? This is how some of it I can't even quantify by age. Some of it he would say, go get the mirror and be careful because the radio didn't slid it under the love seat. By the time my grandma went upstairs at night, that was it for her. You ain't even have to worry about creeping out. And then I ride my bike at 3 o'clock in the morning if I wanted to. And I did.
Yeah.
I was wondering. So when I look around and I see the kids doing that stuff today, I look at it and just remember a time. Mine was born out of struggle. Theirs born out of struggle and a defiance. Mine just because I could. It wasn't that they out there riding around for nefarious purposes. I just was riding the bike. And
so I'm thinking, I know you got a lot to say.
I want to say this. When I would grab the mirror, it looked like sugar. So I wet my hands like we used to because, we couldn't afford candy all the time when we was kids. So we went in the sugar thing.
Yeah.
All of us did. Anybody 50 and over, put their hand in the sugar. What's going on? I thought that sugar. I switched my hand across the thing. I go upstairs. When I hand in the mirror, I'm like this. He said, yo, I know you didn't. I'm telling him. Right. I'm telling him, nah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, young. So that's what early exposure could do, right?
Yeah.
Turn you on to. So go ahead and ask any questions.
So I'm listening to all this, man. Like in today's time, social services or the people would be involved. And I look back at, I'm gonna look back to the 80s. The ball was dropped on a lot of young people, man, that really could have been, but we ain't gonna get into that. But I'm saying
it's true.
Did social service get involved at all in that situation?
This is the irony. You say that. Yeah. I school teach now, right? Just school teach now, right? I deal with trauma-informed children.
Congratulations.
Right? Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So in those practices, like that's what I talk about, the veil behind the children's eyes, right? The things that I see, that I've been exposed to, that I recognize in the other children. We moving ahead, but I had to fight for my license because of my background, about who's best suited, right? They just not used to encountering guys like us, Mark. Right. And so the gatekeepers who hold these things in place, man, attempt to, and having faced the things we face, I'm in total defiance of a prophecy like that.
Right.
Even if I wasn't interested in working on the space. But anyway, moving forward, my teenage years, they were pretty good, right? Pretty good at high school, started to spring up, play basketball. Things like I kicked off the 8th grade team because I walked in the tally.
But hold on. I ain't gonna let you run. I need to know what was your favorite sport? And I think it's probably basketball and football. Why?
And basketball and football.
We're gonna go to the beginning of that and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, prone to basketball. I mean, growing up, I lived in Massachusetts. My mom came and got me and moved to Boston, moved to a suburb of Boston. She had got a husband at this point. He came, white guy, rich. He made good money. He's Yale University grad, New York University grad.
Okay.
Business major. So this is he's starting to be in my formative years of learning, right? So I learned algebra on the computer. He sold in-text materials, what are called study materials, right? Okay. And I used to just play around in the garage. He had an office in every house we lived in. So, we have an office in this house. Every house I live in has an office, right? Because he says you're in the business of yourself. In the business of this household, you're in the business. So I've learned great things in those small windows to be with my mom. God knows better than anybody. Me being prone to the things necessary to facilitate what God be next. Either it was going to be by my might, either it was going to be by my heart, either it was going to be by this base. And now I've learned to level out the base. What I say is what I mean, and the actions are proof positives of it. So I'm grateful for that. Right. I try not to say more than than I can do.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So that was the dynamic. So my mom came and got me and my sister. We lived in the suburb of Boston for a little bit, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. Right? Did well, of course I, started. I'm the only piece of coal in the store, as my mom would say. Up there
right.
She used to say it all the time. And you gotta keep it together. You're the only piece of coal in the snow up there. So and then I started to excel athletically over all ironically. I mean, Jimmy the Greek wasn't always wrong when he said
what turned you on and finish that quote though, the Jimmy the Greek. I'm sorry.
Jimmy the Greek wasn't always wrong when he said that some of our athletic prowess is genetic.
Yeah.
He said it. He said that we outperform a certain contingent of people based on our history.
Right.
Just that history. But
the first time you looked at either football or basketball, what was that? Who showed it to you, or how did you see it? What was going on?
The irony was when I started to become very interested in basketball, I was in hockey land. I had to learn how to play hockey in order for the kids in the neighborhood to play basketball. So I ice skate very well.
Okay.
I got great balance,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Growing up
Right.
in Southern
Yeah.
California as well, you know, I can surf, I can skateboard. Yeah, absolutely. And so I messed my shoulder up in Boston Common as a kid when we went to California, and I bought one of them fat skateboards back, and a rock hit it, and I shaved my shoulder almost uneven when I landed. I had a tank top on. Mom had to take us to the movies to get me to stop crying.
So what made you gravitate to basketball more? Take us to that.
I think just, you know, being a slim
and the second part of that question is, when did you know or think that you was good in basketball?
That's crazy. And I mean, it was after 10th grade. My mom and I moved to LA. I had the option of moving to LA with them. I decided I didn't want to go. I wanted to finish school somewhere. Mind you, so I leave Stubbs. I don't finish 5th grade in Stubbs. I go to California. I mean, I go to Boston. So I do 6. I finished 5th. I had to do 5th grade over because of that. All that acting out. It was all behavior because I could do all the work. So I went up there, and then we got that course corrected. My behavior started to sting. I started to get into understanding what chores were, just all the milestones that go along with youth development. I had a paper route. I took care of me and my sister's my mom said it was going to be my responsibility to take care of me and my sister's entertainment on the weekend. So I had a paper route. And sometimes I had to employ her because the New England winters were harsh. So I had to have my sister. I mean, I had like over 200 houses I did. I had a bike. I did just that stuff. So, I went up there. Then when I came back, we moved up on Penny Hill. And as we were moving into the neighborhood, I was just getting a teenager, right? 10th grade. I was cutting, the young boy was cutting the neighborhood, the grass. And when we was pulling in, my stepfather said, go around there and talk to him. And I said, talk to him about what? I don't know him. He said, I think you should go around there and talk, because she seen the boy on the lawnmower. I went around and talked to him. I said that I got a lawnmower, snowblower, right? And I did. He said that, man, we could split the neighborhood. Right, we could split the neighborhood. You could do one. It was almost retirement. You could do this neighborhood, this part of the neighborhood. Man, I had every tour you could have because of the boy. So my stepfather just keenly, he's a business guy, right? So he knew, hey man, that boy looked like about your age. The boy said, man, his summers was beat because he spent all of it cutting grass, raking leaves, because he had to do the whole neighborhood. He couldn't even feel like he could. Like, say he only could do a certain amount of houses, he felt obligated to do because we lived there. So it was nice. Right. It was nice. Those developments. But then
that's what's up.
They went away. It just transitioned. My mom and them moved to LA from off Penny Hill, and I went back to live with my grandmom. Well, I moved with my mom's sister from her dad's side. She just passed away, Aunt Roslyn. She worked at social service.
Oh, condolences.
But I spent my whole life not knowing she worked at social service. I lived in her house with her for 2 years.
Wow.
She got up every day. People didn't talk about the jobs they had when we was growing up.
Right.
They didn't
say. But can you remember her either dropping jewels or saying any of the lingo that go with being in social services?
Not to even, me. Okay. They didn't. She didn't even extend those services to the family in my generation, because my mom, when I lived with her, my mom sent money. So my mom come from a great affluence.
Okay.
She did. When she went out on Prospector, because she ran away from here at 14. Got pregnant with me, came back, dropped me off. And went back at it. Yeah. Wow. And she just got it, I will talk to her. My mom did 27 in prison for killing someone, right? So they say, they say, it runs in the blood. Nickel does run in the blood.
Right.
It's through a blood covenant that's broken.
We're gonna go back to that. You back playing basketball and how is that? Is that first? Is it secondary? I'm talking about the game at that point. Let's say you 10th, 11th grade, or whatever.
It's been a healthy companion. Let me say that. Basketball been a healthy companion for me.
Yeah.
And all the look back over all the struggle and strife, some of the energy that I put in them shooting in the park at nighttime, that driving down to the beach to play, the dribbling the basketball in the neighborhood until the people's called the cops. Right, little stuff you don't know. That's all passion speaking. But I don't know. Right, I don't know. Right, I don't even know what this is about. Right, I just live the game. Right. Ironically, I got through high school I went through 10th grade and the rest of high school on my own. Like I was on my own. I was on my own. My mom was displaced from it. Me and her having a strange relationship, because throughout life I've been, in that what you call low margin for trial and error. Most things that I've had to go through, I've had to experience. It was difficult trying to learn from people who fortune was mostly already told, right? Just it's I got, ironically, like you said, I got basketball scholarship, right? I won't skip over that, but my family didn't know how to support me when I got a basketball scholarship, especially from the place I got it from.
Right.
I went there for one. You can go ahead if you want. So I finished high school. I played pretty good in high school. I was a pretty good athlete. I wanted to play both sports, but they said basketball looked like the one I should get the scholarship in. So I stuck with basketball. When my mom and them transitioned back to LA, that's why I stayed. I stayed here to play at Mount Pleasant High School.
Oh, Mount Pleasant. Okay. What were some of your competitive moments? We had Mount Pleasant, but what were some of your
I played up against, some of the Delaware's best. AJ Ing, Mike Chambers, Daryl Chambers, Daryl Wolfie Chambers, Bilal Raheem, Big Mike. We talking about, boys over at Dickinson. The boys over at Wilmington High won the championship, wanted me to be over there when I was living on the west side, but I couldn't defect from the boy I was with.
Okay.
I lived in their district, and they won the state championship that year, and it was a spot because I played on the All-Star, I played on the Delaware All-Star team with Dick Vitale and them came down to Del State.
Okay.
Yeah, the ESPN.
So with all the greats, in Delaware, some of the ones you named, where did you think you fit in at? What did you think or believe that you fit in?
As far as I'm concerned,
as far as your skills,
amongst the pro ability, so those pro abilities started to express themselves emphatically, and I went with it. But the irony is, because some of the history of me, like this, catching up to me now. Right? I'm fresh. I'm home almost 3 years. It's starting to catch up with me now because some of my history is cut off. Some of it cut off by being displaced by the criminal justice. So sometimes sight out. Now that I'm being seen again, they going crazy again. Storming and all the guys who rever the people they rever in this state now. All of a sudden, my name back up. I was in the can. I felt it when they did the anniversary of the Storming Classic. They gave jackets to everybody, big jackets, the Letterman jacket, the leather jacket, the leather sleeve.
And where was you at that time?
In the can. I wrote Wolfie and said, "Don't let them forget me."
Right.
Don't let them forget me.
Right.
Don't let them
so
forget me.
We're gonna go back because we got to go back to you inside and how they find out about you.
Yeah.
But when you was where we was at, we was talking about at the classics and all that stuff that was going on. You end up going inside.
Yes. I caught a ride. Listen, the throes of addiction in the beginning. So like as a teenager, like my uncles talked about getting high.
Right.
Used to come in talking about Pepe, I was high as so and so last night. Pepe, I was so high last night. This how they talk to me.
Right.
Pepe, I was so high last night. I'm saying like this, right? But everybody talked about the high, but nobody talked about the landing. Nobody,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
they remember the high. This is what I was going to ask, man. And we'll go back, but I was just going to ask, do you find yourself having to prove yourself?
Nah.
Because people heard about you, but
nah. Well,
you've been
in terms of basketball, of course.
Yeah.
Because anytime I have any lays off in my basketball, I'd go train before I go play. Because as soon as I come out, they hunting me.
Yeah.
So I go run. Like I did. We just came back from Cancun. I did that down there.
That's what's up.
I did it in a hot place where I was already going to generate a sweat.
Yeah. Right? I mean, you did it by yourself, or you ran 5, or what you did?
Nah, I run by myself first to get into a condition I can trust, so I can push it. I just don't jump in and start playing. No,
because it take endurance.
Yeah, because they're gonna come after me once I get on the court.
Right.
My basketball sense gonna sight everybody. My fingertips be on a lot of basketball get played around me. It just because sometimes I'll be the highest pedigree person on the floor.
At this point, man, people want to know, they're going to want to know, man, what kind of distracted you. So I'm going to ask you, man, what was your drug of choice? Or, multiple.
We started
off.
We
got to talk about that.
We started off like in that family environment, man, from drinking out of discarded beer cans, right? Until you learn that sometimes they got ashes in them. Yeah. The glass. Hey, man. That's why I said, the room for error is very small. Roaches in the ashtray. And so I don't know why sometimes not for you, Mark, but a lot of
Okay.
times when you talk about early exposure, I don't know why people don't take the leap. When you say
Right.
early exposure, people
Yeah.
don't leap to the finish line of early exposure.
Yeah.
Early
Yeah.
exposure means things are present. That's
Yeah.
what exposure means.
Yeah.
And I watched people during the parties utilize these tools.
Yeah.
This is the way I see my people socialize.
Yeah.
Send us upstairs, we still sitting on the step. Like, come
Yeah.
on. This was early exposure. Y'all
Oh
go on
yeah.
upstairs, always nosy, trying to see what's going on. That's early exposure, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a conversation of early exposure, man.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we not doing that. Like, we should not be doing that. No,
Right.
it's not that we should not be doing that. We're going to just try to mitigate how the children see it. You don't get to
Right.
shape our experiences. You don't.
Right.
You
Exactly.
don't. The way you get to shape them is making sure that what you expose to us is something that's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how that come about.
So
But
first
then
of
it
all,
went up,
before
it
we
went up.
continue on, let me just say this. Before we continue on, man, I want to say I commend your courage, because it takes courage, man, to come up and take accountability for some stuff. That's why DMX had a lot of respect, not only in the rap game, but in the streets. Why? Because he'd tell you, yeah, I did whatever, whatever, whatever. So you locked up now, right? Not now. I'm painting a picture.
Yes.
You locked up, and what age are you at?
So
Teenager or whatever?
I got you. So I go through my criminal palette real quick.
Okay.
I'm very aware of these things because I'm on the cusp of a lot of other things. And
Right.
the paperwork that I've had to acquire along the way is pardonable stuff, although I've been able to achieve my license and stuff without a pardon. Right.
Okay.
My license,
Okay.
yep. The story's so compelling. But I'll go through the formalities later. But my criminal palette is at 18, just out of high school. I had a first-degree robbery and trafficking charge. I had a weapon at the time of the robbery, but they dismissed the weapon. Thank God. They dismissed the weapon. Now they processed the weapon. They gave me 3 years, so I went in. Never had been in the joint before, man. Like, Gander was just, it was an ominous place. It was dark. It was sandy. The wall didn't have paint on it. It was sandy.
Yeah.
People used to file their fingernails on the cement wall on the tier and stuff. It'd be grains of sand and stuff on it. The place was man dilapidated. Right. And then I was in there with, killers and $100 bills and was
most definitely.
And my charge was systemic of a hit of addiction, right? I didn't know what it was when I felt like the overwhelming compulsion to like have the need, the want. Man, it just like, and man, I committed a robbery, man, right close to where the crib was at. And then I through the robbery, I bought some G-Packs, just like anybody, bought some G-Packs. I started to flip them, ran into a boy I used to work with, that I went to high school with. He was doing the bike messenger. I mean, not the bike messenger. He was doing the lawyer messenger on French Street. Up and down French Street, all the lawyers' offices. So I seen when I went to high school with, he was looking for something. I sold it to him. He told the police. They came and got me. Yeah. And I let him write me a check. Just show you how early in the game he wrote me a check for some of the product, and I went and cashed the check. They even had footage of that.
Wow. Yeah.
So then they sent me. So they sent me to jail for 3 years. They gave me a meatball, what they called it back then.
Okay. Yeah.
It was 89 and 92. In the process of being down there, as you know, Mark, me and you and I met. And the irony is, I was playing basketball like a terror. They said one time that Russell Westbrook was trying out. He was in a gym. UCLA was recruiting. Russell Westbrook was at some obscure gym. He was in there, and they said, "Man, you better go downstairs. They got a guy downstairs playing like his hair's on fire." They recruited him to play for UCLA that day. Yeah.
Wow.
So I was playing. I was in the joint real hard. I was scoring 60. I was scoring 60 points, 70 points. It's crazy.
So I'm going back to that 3-year sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did anybody even know about you? Like, how did that work? Did somebody talk to somebody in the facility? Like,
they did.
How did that?
So it was an officer. His name's Scotty. We love him.
Yeah.
He was secretly filming me playing basketball against them guys. Just
secretly.
He videotaped me playing basketball.
Yeah. And so it wasn't on video. Like, y'all didn't think y'all was coming to be videoed, but it was being videoed.
It was being videoed.
Right.
It was being videoed. And then, I guess somewhere in my youth and somewhere in, I've always been fighting for my life. Like, a lot of people don't know that. I've been fighting for my life and my sanity. Like this education, my educational acumen may always been the foundation of what's going on. I just didn't know it. Like I said, you learn not to begrudge the journey, right? I didn't know. I didn't know some of these things that God was equipping me for. The basketball was giving me just enough education, man, to get me out of some of the situations my life's in now. Like I thank him for it all the time. Hey, man, just enough, huh? Like no more, no less. Like to qualify.
We got to finish the story. Scotty secretly recorded you, and what happened?
So one day I'm going into him. He pulls me to the side and says, "Hey, man, I want to talk to you for a second. Man, I want to talk to you." He pulls me in the office. He said, "I'm gonna give you a job in the gym. You're gonna be in here with me." I said, "Okay." So then I guess the job in the gym, which everyone covers the job, Yeah. So I'm in the gym. So I'm playing basketball, working out hard, right? My mom's sending me books. Prior to me going to prison, I was gonna run to LA to be with my mom.
Okay.
She told me she heard about the trouble I am. I need to be a grown man about this. She'll support me because I had never been locked up. I'm gonna support you she supported me from out in LA. I'm gonna support you. And then when you come home, you come out to California. And I said, okay. And then ironically, although I've been through, the basketball scholarship is in LA. I mean, you can't. That's when I say, like, God reveals himself, man. I could have went anywhere. They was offering me scholarships in Florida. They sent the tapes out. So unbeknownst to me, they sent the tapes out. Box of envelopes start to come. I get the envelope. Mark Harris just left.
Right.
So I'm just behind Mark.
And I want to jump into the audience, man, because I want to highlight this situation. We're talking about somebody who went to prison. He's in prison. He had a 3-year mandatory, right? Was it mandatory just 3?
Mandatory.
Either way, he had a 3-year sentence, right? So once you go in, especially there, you ain't coming out.
No,
but what he said is somebody was secretly recording him, and I guess they touched base with some people, probably showed them the footage. They was impressed, and they gave this man a scholarship while he was in prison.
They bought a doctor in from Philadelphia organization, 76ers organization, Dr. Carter.
What?
His name, Dr. Carter, do an analysis on me.
Oh, they did all that.
They came and did an analysis. A lot of people don't know that stuff. I ain't never talked about it. They came and did an analysis on me, ran me through a rigor and a pro rigor in the gym. It was every bit.
You was the only one in there.
I was the only one in there, and they videotaped it. They put. I came into the gym that morning. It was Saturday morning. I'll never forget it. I was the only person in the gym except for the gym workers. Ed Fountain and them was in the gym.
Right.
And they had all these objects and these drill stuff set up all throughout the gym. I'm looking at it. I don't really got I ain't really been coached. Like, I'm just raw.
Yeah.
And they run me through these drills. Shoot the ball. I had to shoot from here. I had to take 1-2 dribbles from the sideline and jump over this like stool and dunk the ball, right?
Right.
Then it was on both sides. So from a dead stop out of bounds, you have to learn, you have to figure it out. So first I tried to dribble twice and jump over the stool. It was so far away. It was like 18 feet. Like not that 18 is 3-pointer. It was like 9 feet. Like to like cover that ground off of this stuff. So I learned from out of bounds to throw the ball in, right? They just recognize how my thinking is. They evaluate my thought process to get to what I'm being asked to do. Because I'm about to go somewhere where they get ready to ask me to do a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Based on my skill level.
Right.
So and then they had me shoot from half court until I make it. They had me dribble opposite the direction around the cones, like opposite of like the drag dribble around the cone. The drag, I'm dragging the ball around the cone.
Right.
Like I'm going over a pick. They had me going the opposite direction, so the ball was exposed. It was so goofy. But I didn't do I did it the way they said a couple times, and I stopped and started doing it the way like the drill would be. And they stopped it. They stopped the evaluation and said he ain't gonna be nothing but a street ball player. We out here. The guy left and was walking across the compound. And I ran out the gym and told me, we ain't done yet. Where you going?
Right.
Which way you going?
Right.
We ain't done yet.
Exactly.
He came back.
Okay.
We went through the rigor of it. And then by the time it was over with, we had pinpoint that it was the school I was going to go to. It was out west. Mark had already been there a year. Okay. They were close. They was missing, a 3 and D. Guy with a 40-something inch vertical, man, banging on their beat. So so I went out to LA 92, February 92. Prior to going out to LA, the officer that helped me, I stayed with him. He didn't want me to come back to Wilmington. I stayed with him. His
Okay.
son, ironically, right now is playing for University of Maryland quarterback. He should be starting this year, or in the
Okay.
heavy rotation.
Okay.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
So he knows. So what he did for me, he been doing. He did for his too.
Right.
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 And he took me sight unseen. He ain't had that boy when he did me. That
Okay.
boy he got
Right.
now, he had that
Right.
son. So
Exactly.
white guy too, two white guys, man. I'm gonna say that. Thinking about what we think about early in life, about what they try to teach us about the other. You have to
Yeah.
learn on your own that it
Yeah.
ain't true.
Right.
And have to learn
And
to
you
trust.
stayed with them when you was out
I
there?
only stayed with my mom was in LA, so I stayed with my mom until it was time to go to school. February. I
Right.
went to school
Okay.
in
Okay.
August. My mom
Yeah.
lives in Southern California. I lived down Newport Beach. Worked out.
Okay. Okay.
Worked as a lifeguard. Worked as different thing. Camp counselor. The stuff that go along with where my mind always been, like
Right.
children, youth oriented. Like I ain't know it. Pool attendant. I keep a CPR license. Just like regular stuff like live.
So now I gotta make the go back to something you said, right? Because you spoke about, and I'm real serious about that low self-esteem, right? Because I found out looking back that I had it too. A lot of us had it, right? But we may not have understood it. So now you at the point, man. You get females, you know what I'm saying? People respecting you. They done came to a prison and got you. I know your confidence level is moving up.
Yes.
So go from that point to the point when you say you confess that you had low self-esteem.
Yeah.
What was the difference? Because was you whole at that time, or was you what was
here's the irony. The irony is when I mentioned the self-esteem thing with my growing up, when the girls moved out of the house, the athletic ability started to pronounce itself. And that's when I went with those children up there in Massachusetts that started to be more athletic than them. With that being said, I think that some of it came from "You Can't Ignore Me Now," right? Because some of that, some of those abuses is also indicative of being, some of that being ignored by people who were outside of the culture of that. Now, my grandma's sister, she knew.
Okay.
She would come over there and bark at my grandmom about the house being not clean, about the clothes in the back room. She would take us over her house. Ironically, she the one that caught me with my first marijuanas, because when you went over to her house, she made us take our clothes off at the door.
Right.
She didn't bring no roaches in her house. She owned her
right.
home.
Exactly.
She wasn't bringing no roaches. I used to be incensed about having this strip at her door like that.
Yeah.
Like, man, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But she ain't want no roaches in her house.
No,
we have roaches.
Respect.
And so I had the weed in my pocket. 6th grade, I'll never forget it. I had the weed in my pocket. And me and her was tussling over the clothes because she want to iron your clothes and stuff. And we fighting over when the weed falls on the floor. Now, mind you, this last time I got locked up, she's in a home across the street from me. She's right now in Meadowwood. We go over there and see her. She says before she started to, she's 95. So before she started to be this, maybe like 10 years ago, she said, we was on the phone from the joint. She said, I knew I should have told your mom about that weed.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, maybe I apologize, but I had been at that long before you caught up to that.
Yeah.
So,
but
so I mean, so they give me the basketball scholarship. I go out to LA, man. I go to a junior college. Just quick synopsis. Just all this light stuff to me. Went over to the JC up Fresno. Got up there, man. It was hot. 110. We was training in that. You know what I'm saying?
110.
It was 110, 110, 108. It was a grapevine. It's the Central Valley of California. It's hot.
Right.
Farmland, hot.
Right.
Right. Hot enough to be focused on just basketball in school. How about that?
Yeah.
Just hot enough.
Yeah.
Drug was falling out. It was so hot. Me and Wolfie had come from the brink of destruction. So when they said that they couldn't do the things that they was doing to me playing basketball, once we got up there, it was all ball. So then I averaged 27 points, 11 rebounds, like 3 steals. Yeah, like 2 blocks a game. So we went 20. They went from whatever they were. I wasn't even cognizant of it. They went from whatever they were to a 28 and 16 and a 30 and 3 team. I think we lost 3 games the second year when we got our sisters. Yeah, that's when we went to the Final Four. We took them for a whole run. We shot at the buzzer. I told him one time I made a shot up in Salinas. You know, stuff you never forget. I made a shot up in Salinas when I wasn't even supposed to get the ball, and it was to send the game to overtime. I remember sitting on the bus when we was going to the next site for the next in the tournament. I told everybody, I got right in the front of the bus and told everybody, do you know we played 2 whole seasons of basketball for me to get for that ball to come around the horn, for me to get that shot, to push us into overtime, to win that game. You know that, right? I told him. Yeah. Then I said, I said, the coach, he sat me down and said, you even know that this is even further back than that when I was shooting in that gym, nobody was in there. Yeah. But people don't know that. They was videotaping. I was doing all kinds of things, preparing myself for, whatever could come. But so I'm just grateful for the passage of it, because now I loses my basketball scholarship because I allow somebody to give me a Porsche.
Right.
So back then, NIL, they didn't have it. The Edo Bannon case, those things, just covering some stuff that some of your listeners would know. And they had a lawsuit about the name and likeness, and they kicked me off the team over a Porsche. I came back to Wilmington. I started selling drugs.
Somebody called in, or
the coach caught me. Coach caught me in it driving down Pacific Coast Highway.
Right.
It's a 911 Porsche. I had parked it on campus, but I parked it like off to the side. It's $100,000 car.
So the people that I know they told you, the people that gave it to you, like, yo, be low with it. What did they say?
The people that gave it to me was a girl. Her dad had heard about me from up in the Central Valley, owned the car dealership in Beverly Hills. Called me up there to test drive a car. They thinking I'm going to go pro. I'm playing with Doug Christie, right? I'm like, he's my sponsor for when to get the scholarship. He's the one showing me around town. He played 14 years in the league. I got down to the facility through him, down the Laker facility. Anyway. So stuff like that, man. It's just been a long passage. I just want to get into I really just want to get into the restoration part, right? So I had stumbled over myself a couple times, in terms of criminal justice, in terms of addiction. Man, I had come back from California, devastated from that scholarship. I could have went to Southern California. I had a child at the time with a girl out there. She ended up having a baby by a Laker, Samaki Walker. She did.
Yeah.
But her name was Zakia Michelle Randolph. Her birthday was yesterday. Just the irony of it, right? God, he in his infinite wisdom, man, gonna make it all close, man. Those that's paying attention.
So before we get into the restoration, how many times were you in and out, and how many times did you waste in prison? How many times did you go? And
I got you. Listen, I got the numbers. Mark, I told you I was going to be prepared for you, Mark.
Right.
This is a history, Mark, that I've had to go. This is a history, Mark, that I just had to take account for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very keen on. I can even tell you how many meals it was, but I ain't gonna do that.
Right.
See, that's what I'm trying to say. Because I want to say that. I want to say this. For the questions you asking me, and for anybody speak after me, man, the people who are successful, when you ask them how they be successful, none of them will say they don't know how they got here. None of them.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.